I think Devesh has covered the majority of the points, and I think most of you here, at least in my interactions, I have found you to be very seasoned entrepreneurs, especially the ones sitting in the back. I know that I have interacted with both of you, but I'll still cover the basic. I think the fundamental premise behind doing a startup has to remain, obviously, as we all know, what business problem are we solving. But defining the business problem, that in itself is an art. So you need to go out and make sure that you're defining the business problem which is in a measurable way. For example, I can define a business problem where I want to say I want to go out and move a chair from here to here, but is that really a measurable way of going out and saying if there is any tangible difference I'm going to make? If not, then I need to go out and focus on which is the tangible way of measuring that business problem, who's the end user, who's the customer, target customer, and if he is willing to go out and pay for it, and are there enough revenues or margins for me as a business to go out and sustain? So saying that defining a business problem, it is very important to go out and measure in an impactable way. We do that. Number one. Number two, I think very important that you invest yourself. Some of you, may have already done that, but I think quite a few of you might be kind of thinking about. So entrepreneurship is not something that you can go out and do half-hearted, as you have to cut the proverbial code. So it is very important when somebody comes to us with a business plan, we try and understand how much they have invested, and not just the sweat equity. We also want to see, even if it is your small savings, if you have done that. Third, we always look for validation. Do you have a customer? Do you have users? And do you have paying users? Do you have paying customers? Initially, they will not be paying. But it's very important that we go out and get validation, because without validation, it's very hard for us to go out and breathe, eat, sleep the same way you are passionate about your business. And you may be drinking your own Kool-Aid, as they say in Valley, right? But we want to see if others are going out and buying into that passion or not, and others are going out and. So I think it's very important that we need that validation. That's number three. Number four, I would say, measure everything. What are the metrics you have set up for yourself? And those metrics have to be starting with revenue, profit, customers, users. Because unless you're not measuring yourself on an everyday basis, and you define those 5 metrics. So every day you create your own dashboard. रोज सुबह उठो डैशबोर्ड सामने रखो और करो कि ये मेरे कस्टमर्स होने चाहिए, ये मेरे यूजर्स होना चाहिए, ये मेरे रेवेन्यू होने चाहिए था और ये मेरा प्रॉफिट होना चाहिए था, right? Unless you're not going on and putting that, you will never be able to go out and make a headway when you get stuck in a particular market. So that's very important that you please focus on that, because without that you will never be able to, you're not accountable to anybody other than yourself and your investors. So it is very important that you make yourself accountable, only then the rest of the team will feel that they are accountable to the business as well. So that's very important. Fourth, I think always go out and focus on the market way beyond what you see. So like last night conversation, I think what dinner which we mentioned was that nobody is going to get excited, with all due respect, about Nepal market outside Nepal. So it's very hard for you to sell that, okay, I'm doing something really great in Nepal, in Silicon Valley, or let's say in Bombay. But if you can focus on cross-border market, which is one of the themes why we are here, and if you can focus on the large expat that Nepalis are, whether in India I believe 25 lakhs and others, then I believe that there is a very good sustainable value proposition. Because for other people to go out and do business with Nepal, and Nepal is even the expats who are living there, that's a massive market, right? I mean, in terms of whether it is the remittance market, whether it is the services they use, whether it is the travel, etc. So I think it's very important that don't just focus. If anybody is building a company sitting in Nepal only for Nepal, please don't talk to us, is what I would say, ideally. And I'm not discouraging, please continue to do that. But I think we are excited about people going out and building companies sitting in Nepal for, first of all, Nepal expats, Nepal maybe in India, surrounding countries, wherever, and hopefully, eventually, global. Because I saw some of the products and I think they are some of the best out there. So you folks have the ability to build global products, right? A lot of smaller countries have built that. Even Nepal has built some of the products which are world famous, as we all know. So I think why can't we go out and do that in the technology space or in whatever space that you have gone out and chosen, right? But yes, obviously you'll have to start small. So the thing wrong in choosing Nepal as the initial market, as a test market, as a beta market, but I think what's going to get investors excited is the larger picture, the bigger picture, because we always like to go out and go for the scale. And I think finally just keep in mind exit. It's very important that, I think somebody said ecosystem, which is very important that you invest in ecosystem, you build the ecosystem, but also you keep in mind that investors are investing you because we are looking not just for returns, obviously, but we are looking for an exit for those returns. We don't want just the paper returns. So when we are looking for an exit, it's very important that we know that you know your ecosystem well. That ecosystem may be somebody within Nepal, could be outside Nepal, and the fact that you have gone out and built ties, whether it is, if you are in technology space, as we say, if you have done back-end integration or API integration, or you've gone out and done strategic alliances and expanded in other markets, I think very critical. So, these are the 4-5 points that I'll keep in. I suggest you keep in mind. There are a couple of movies that I would recommend. Anybody here has watched the movie The Martian? Excellent. So Martian is, I think, all about basically going out and innovating on a different planet, which is Mars. There's this guy, Mehta, this famous actor from Hollywood. He gets stranded on Mars, and then basically he starts with T minus, I think, 300 days or what that he has on Mars, and he starts planning rivers. I think it's very important from a planning standpoint, how he goes out, grows potatoes on Mars, etc. But also how he plans his exit from Mars. I think that final shot in terms of how he goes out and exits from planet Mars when he's stranded alone, I think is very important. It's a very entertaining movie. I encourage all of you to watch that. The other movie that I would recommend is a movie called Joy. Has anybody watched Joy?